Anakin Skywalker Darth Vader was both one of Star Wars' most powerful Jedi and one of Star Wars' most powerful Sith, but was he really that much more powerful than his Jedi Master, Obi Wan Kenobi? Very few characters in Star Wars movies and TV shows have seemed to possess more raw power than Anakin Skywalker. Among the names who likely have more raw power than Anakin are Palpatine Darth Sidious, Master Yoda, and Anakin's own son, Luke Skywalker. Obi Wan, although a powerful Jedi in his own right, is notably not among those names. Despite that, when Anakin Vader and Obi Wan went head-to-head, Obi Wan consistently emerged victorious. Given that, is it true that Anakin was really more powerful than Obi Wan? Anakin could wield great power, but couldn't control it. Raw power can only take someone so far. As mentioned, Anakin and Obi Wan faced off in battle on multiple occasions, and Obi Wan was frequently the victor. This was clearest in Star Wars, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, when Anakin and Obi Wan fought on Mustafar. During this battle, Anakin was arguably the most powerful he ever was throughout the entire Star Wars timeline. Not only had Anakin just turned to the dark side, which gives the Force user easier access to power, but this was also before Vader was limited by his suit. Even with Anakin at the peak of his power, though, Obi Wan was able to defeat him. This battle was not even close, in fact. Yes, there were moments when Obi Wan and Anakin were locked in a clash of their lightsabers in which they seemed evenly matched, but in the end, Obi Wan left Anakin without any of his remaining flesh limbs, burning near to death. This comes down to a question of raw power versus discipline. Anakin was the chosen one and had a staggering amount of power, but he still lacked a basic discipline that Obi Wan had mastered. This is precisely why Obi Wan was able to take Anakin down. He used the high ground to his advantage, whereas Anakin overestimated his abilities and made a rash decision that very nearly cost him his life. Obi Wan excelled in his mastery of the Force. Obi Wan was undeniably the more disciplined of the two. Obi Wan Kenobi fighting General Grievous in Revenge of the Sith holding his blue lightsaber up. Obi Wan had earned the respect of some of the most prominent Jedi in the Order during the Clone Wars era, including the members of the Jedi Council themselves. In part, this was because of how dedicated Obi Wan was to the Jedi way. While his Padawan may have been one of the most rebellious Jedi in quite some time, Obi Wan upheld the rules of the Jedi, and that led even Jedi like Yoda and Mace Windu to seek his perspective. This was even clear in Obi Wan's dynamic with his own former Jedi Master, Qui-Gon Jinn, who was also a known rule breaker. In addition to this adherence to the Jedi Code, Obi Wan was simply a masterful Jedi when it came to using the Force, which also caused other Jedi to seek his wisdom. This is also what made Obi Wan such a formidable opponent for Anakin. Even if Anakin beat Obi Wan in terms of raw power, he just didn't have the same ability to focus, control his emotions, and use the Force to his advantage. Anakin was a reactive fighter, lashing out with anger and thinking his natural abilities would be enough, whereas Obi Wan was tactical and calm. The leverage this gave Obi Wan in battle was evident in each of their encounters, even in the Obi Wan Kenobi show, when Obi Wan had been very out of practice with the Force. Anakin's untamed power was no match for Obi Wan. Obi Wan proved that no matter how powerful Anakin became, he couldn't defeat Obi Wan. Anakin Skywalker Darth Vader's broken helmet in Obi Wan Kenobi. Realistically, Anakin Vader never defeated Obi Wan in battle. Even in their final encounter in A New Hope, Obi Wan simply surrendered himself. Darth Vader didn't truly kill him. Long before that, Anakin had multiple opportunities to defeat Obi Wan, but he was unable to do so. In fact, in their final face-off in Obi Wan Kenobi, Obi Wan once again was able to kill Vader if he so chose, but he left him alive, just as he had in Revenge of the Sith. That isn't to say Anakin was entirely unskilled. Anakin Vader and Obi Wan's battles are some of the greatest lightsaber duels in Star Wars. Anakin's weaknesses, ego, hatred, and a lack of self-control, were simply too significant for him to win against the likes of Obi Wan, a true Jedi Master. Even with Anakin Vader tapping into the dark side, he was no match for Obi Wan. They both have each other beat in power, in two different ways. Obi Wan was able to use his own strengths to overpower Anakin. In the end, the question of who is more powerful between Anakin and Obi Wan comes down to the definition of power that's being applied. In terms of raw power, it's evident that Anakin has Obi Wan beat. This is precisely what made Anakin so dangerous in the eyes of the Jedi, even when he was first brought to them in Star Wars, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace as a young boy. His midichlorian count alone indicated how much potential he had in the Force, and he exhibited that power throughout the prequels and Star Wars, The Clone Wars that is just one definition of power, though. While natural ability and raw strength are part of it, there is clearly so much more that goes into one's ability to win in battle. This seems especially true of lightsaber battles. In a duel, one must also call upon the Force and be strategic, areas in which Obi Wan consistently excels, especially compared to Anakin. Star Wars also effectively speaks for itself on this matter, given how many times Obi Wan was able to defeat Anakin Vader. It's difficult to argue that Anakin is the more powerful of the two given his inability to overpower Obi Wan in their many confrontations. Even so, it's interesting to imagine what might have been had Vader not suffered the severe injuries he did at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Had he not lost his limbs and required his restrictive, and painful, Darth Vader suit, would Vader have been able to defeat Obi Wan? It's quite possible that, had Vader never required the suit, he would have outmatched Obi Wan, especially when they encountered one another again in Obi Wan Kenobi. At that point, Obi Wan's Force abilities were seriously diminished, enough so that he struggled just to catch little Leia as she fell through the air. That, combined with Vader's power and without the limitations of his suit or his injuries, could have meant Vader was more powerful. Ultimately, this can only be a thought experiment. As it stands in Star Wars canon, Obi Wan Kenobi undoubtedly outmatches Anakin Skywalker.